Hi everyone and welcome to Matrix Surfer Music, where today we're going to pop the blue pill and follow the Behringer X32 signal path down the rabbit hole. I decided to create this video for you because of a couple reasons. One is in scanning various conversations throughout the internet on the X32, I've noticed regularly that routing is a popular topic because, well, it's just so, the possibilities are so endless with the X32. And, I just wanted to capture my own experience. I'm kind of a simple-minded guy, and so I really needed to step through and figure out exactly how to do this. And I thought, you know what, this might benefit somebody else. And, I think the rabbit hole is such a great metaphor for the X32, mainly because it's a world where virtually anything is possible in terms of routing and mixing combinations, which is a combination of fabulous and well, excruciating. So, and as the more I dig into it, the more I go towards the fabulous and away from the excruciating. For me, it's useful to identify my objective in terms of figuring out how I want to route things, what do I want to accomplish. And so the specific example I'm going to give you today is taking my two guitars. I got a PRS and a Strat, and my goal was to route both dry signals through separate channels in the X32, let them go out to an outboard processor, and then route the results of that processor back into the board. And that would give me capability to switch guitars to the processor, to combine the dry with the wet sounds and so forth. So I created a visual diagram for you. I'm very visual, and so if you are too, then hopefully this will help you out. Just as a broad overview, again, what we're going to do is we're going to take the dry signals in from the guitars directly into the Behringer X32, and then take those signals out through a bus into the second AUX, the AUX 2. We're going to take that AUX 2 out to our outboard effect, and then we're going to bring the left and right out of that effect back into the board in a direct in. So a couple of notes here for you. I've kind of color coded it. I thought it would be easier to distinguish if you can see the difference between a physical in and a digital route. And so obviously we're plugging physical cables into the Behringer, and we're taking a physical cable out of the AUX 2 into the outboard, and a physical cable back out, two physical cables back out of that outboard processor. And just as an aside, I'm using the Boss GT001 as a processor, and I just really enjoy the flexibility. You can work with, you get great starting places for tones, and a lot of fairly well-known artists have contributed tones to it. It's easy to work with and really just a lot of fun. But enough of that. The first thing I want to focus on is something that was a bit of a source of confusion for me. And this is where the rabbit hole starts. Just because you plug your guitars or whatever instrument into the direct in 11 and a direct in 12 here does not necessarily mean that your signal is automatically going to go to those channels inside the X32. So that becomes the first potential source of confusion. And what you need to check to start with is you press the routing button on the side of your display, and this brings up your home screen. And what you'll notice right away is that you've got inputs 1 through 8, inputs 9 through 16, and so forth. And again, this video works whether you're working with the producer or the compact, the number of channels change. And what you'll notice is that inputs 1 through 8 or 9 through 16, these can be a variety of things. Now, when it says local, that is your direct in. But you can also see that this can be, you can direct the inputs from the cards, from the CAT card that's built into the X32, and so forth. So this is where I got kind of messed up starting off with, and that is just to make sure that my instruments were coming in and going to not only the direct in, but the proper channel So I matched up inputs 1 through 8, 9 through 16, and so forth. Now you can see here that my typical setup is 1 through 16 are direct ins. That's where I bring in all my instruments, and then the cards 1 through 16 come back in inputs 17 through 32, and I use that for recording and playback. So you've made your physical connections to the direct ins of your choice. And the next step is to figure out where to take the signal path internally. So we're going to take this, in this case, I set both of the dry signals to go into the X32 bus 11. So the next thing we're going to do is go to our input channels and make sure that our settings are correct. In this case, I plugged the PRS into channel 11, so I'm going to select 11. Then I'm going to go to channel 11's home screen by clicking home. So here we are at channel 11's home screen. And the first thing we want to do is go to the config screen. And what you want to check is that the source that you're carrying for this channel comes from the direct in that you plugged into. So you can see we're on channel 11 and we're coming in from direct in 11. After that, tab to your sends, and this is where you want to set up your bus signal for going out of signal 11. Now I'm talking also through 15, so that's why you're seeing that moving right now. But if I were to strum the guitar, you can see that I'm coming through bus 11 with my dry signal. Awesome. So now we know that we've got the dry signal coming in and that we're headed back out through bus 11. So we've made it in with our dry signal. We've made certain that our tone is going out through bus 11. We could see it on the meters. Next thing to do is to make sure that we are taking the output from a bus 11 into aux2 in. And here's how we do that. You're going to pick your auxiliary bank, going to go over and select aux2, and we're going to select home, and again tab to config. And here on the aux2 config screen, you can see that we have dialed the rotary so that we are receiving bus 11. And again, it's easy enough to check your source and just make sure that you're getting tone where you expect it. And sure enough, there it is. So right on. We have made it most of the way through the process. If you stayed with me so far, we've put our instrument into the proper direct in. We've taken it out through the bus into aux2 and taken that signal, and now we're taking that signal out to the effect that you want to use. In this case, again, it's a hard wire, so I'm just taking a direct path plugging cable into the GT001 input and taking its outs left and right to channels 9 and 10. And now for the big test, let's see if that actually worked. So back to the board and make sure we've got a little, well, we already know that we've got tone coming in 11. And if everything worked properly, I should be able to pull up 9 and 10 and get the outboard signal in for the wet, and let's see. Success! Woo! So just one final tip today. Very often I'll find that I've made it all the way through and I've checked my signal path and I can see the meters running for the signals the way I expect, and then I go to play it and nothing. And so there is one final tip, kind of a troubleshooting tip that I want to give you today, which is back to the routing screen. And you want to make sure that you tab over to outs 1 through 16, where I have found that output 15 and output 16 should be going out to your mains. And in my case, I've got them set up to main left and main right. And if I'm not getting any signal out into my speakers, that's usually the issue. So that's it for today's exploration down the rabbit hole following the Behringer X32 signal path. I hope you found it useful. And as always, if you have suggestions, feedback, other videos you'd enjoy seeing, please let me know. And give me a thumbs up if you like the tutorial. Go out there and make beautiful music.